It was supposed to be the perfect suburban sanctuary. A two-story colonial on Elm Street, manicured lawn, white picket fence, the American dream packaged in brick and mortar. But on the night of November 14th, that dream didn't just die, it was incinerated. When firefighters pulled Sarah Mitchell's body from the ashes, they assumed it was a tragic accident. A faulty wire, a candle left burning, a space heater tip over in the dead of winter. But then the coroner found something in her lungs. Or rather, what they didn't find. By the way, if you're new here, subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a case. Also, let us know in the comments what country you're watching this from. We would love to tell more stories from your area. And as investigators peeled back the layers of the Mitchell family's life, they didn't find a happy marriage cut short by tragedy. They found a pressure cooker of resentment, a man whose ego was so fragile that the loss of a job turned him into a monster, and a revenge plot so cold, it burned the house down with his wife still inside. They say money can't buy happiness. But in this case, the lack of it bought a one-way ticket to hell. This is the story of Jason and Sarah Mitchell. A story about identity, pride, and the terrifying reality of what happens when the person sleeping next to you becomes a stranger. Before we dive into the ashes of this twisted case, make sure you're subscribed and have that notification bell turned on. We cover the cases the media forgets, and trust me, the forensic twist in this one. You won't see it coming. And I have a question for you as we go through this. If your partner lost their identity, their job, their status, how long would you stay before the red flags became too bright to ignore? Let me know in the comments. Now let's go back to before the fire. To the days when the Mitchells were the envy of the neighborhood. To understand the horror of that November night, we have to understand the height from which the Mitchells fell. Jason Mitchell, 34, was a man who defined himself by one thing: his paycheck. He was a high-ranking regional manager for a logistics firm. He drove a BMW, wore tailored suits, and insisted on picking up the check at every dinner party. He was the guy who had made it. He was loud, charismatic, and loved being the center of attention. Sarah Mitchell, 32, was the heart of the relationship. A pediatric nurse beloved by her colleagues, she was the steady ground to Jason's high-flying ambition. She was the one who remembered birthdays, who baked for the neighbors, who stayed late to hold the hand of a sick child. Neighbor voiceover, Jason loved being the man. He loved that Sarah relied on him. He'd always joke, "I bring home the bacon, she just cooks it." It seemed funny at the time. Retrospectively, it was a warning sign. He needed to be needed. Their life was built on a specific dynamic, Jason as the provider, Sarah as the grateful wife. It was a traditional setup that worked for them. Until it didn't. In the volatile economy of 2023, stability is a myth. On August 12th, Jason was called into an office he'd walked into 1,000 times. But this time, he wasn't there for promotion. He was handed a cardboard box and escorted out of the building by security. Corporate restructuring. Just like that, the identity he had carefully constructed for a decade vanished. For most people, job loss is a crisis. For Jason Mitchell, it was an ego death. Instead of looking for new work, witnesses say Jason retreated. He stopped shaving. He started drinking at noon. But the most dangerous change wasn't his hygiene, it was his attitude towards Sarah. As the savings dwindled, Sarah did what any partner would do. She stepped up. She took extra shifts at the hospital. She picked up overtime. For the first time in their marriage, she was the primary breadwinner. And Jason couldn't handle it. Text from Jason to Sarah, 2:30 p.m. Where are you? Shift ended 30 minutes ago. Text from Jason to Sarah, 2:45 p.m. I guess you're too busy being the big shot to come home to your husband. Text from Jason to Sarah, 3:00 p.m. Don't bother making dinner. I threw it out. He began to view her success not as a lifeline, but as an insult. He accused her of flirting with doctors. He timed her commutes. He called the hospital front desk to verify she was actually there. Friends noticed the change in Sarah. The bubbling, happy nurse became withdrawn. She started wearing long sleeves to cover bruises. We don't know for sure, but we know she stopped smiling. She stopped talking about Jason. He hates me, she texted her sister Emily in late October. He looks at me like I'm the reason he failed. Like my paycheck is a weapon I'm using against him. Sarah was living with a ghost. A ghost who drank whiskey and stared at the wall, seething with a resentment that was about to boil over. November 14th, the day of the fire. According to Sarah's sister, Sarah had finally had enough. She had secretly rented a small apartment across town. She withdrew $500 cash. She packed a small go bag and hid it in the trunk of her car. She planned to tell Jason that night that she was leaving, not for good maybe, but until he got sober. Until he got help. She came home at 6 p.m. Neighbors reported hearing shouting around 7:30 p.m. One neighbor, Mrs. Gable, told police later it wasn't just yelling. It was a primal scream. And then silence. Think about that silence. What happens in a house when the screaming stops, but no one leaves? For 6 hours, the house on Elm Street was quiet. But inside, Jason Mitchell wasn't sleeping. He was working. At 2:14 a.m., the 911 dispatch received a call. It was Jason Mitchell. Call operator 911, what is your emergency? Jason, hyperventilating, panic in his voice. My house. It's on fire. I can't find my wife. Sarah. Operator, sir, get out of the house. Is there anyone else inside? Jason, the smoke, it's everywhere. I tried to get to the bedroom, but the door is stuck. God help us. When firefighters arrived 7 minutes later, the house was a torch. The roof had already collapsed. Standing on the front lawn, barefoot in the freezing November grass, was Jason Mitchell. He was covered in soot, coughing, screaming Sarah's name. He had to be physically restrained from running back into the flames. To the first responders, he looked like a devastated husband watching his world burn. But a veteran fire captain noticed something strange. Jason was covered in soot, but he wasn't burned. Not a singe on his eyebrows. Not a blister on his hands. For a man who claimed he tried to beat down a burning bedroom door to save his wife, he looked remarkably intact. But in the chaos, no one said a word. They just fought the fire. The fire was extinguished by 5 a.m. Sarah's remains were found in the master bedroom. She was on the bed. Jason's story was simple. They had gone to sleep after a quiet dinner. He woke up to the smell of smoke. He ran to the hallway to check, and a wall of fire separated him from the bedroom. He tried to get to her, but the heat drove him back. He jumped out the living room window to get help. It was a plausible story. It was a tragic story. Until the autopsy. Dr. Aris, the county medical examiner, made a chilling discovery. In a fire death, the victim almost always has soot in their trachea and high levels of carbon monoxide in their blood. Why? Because they breathe in the smoke before the fire gets them. It's the smoke that usually kills you, not the flames. Sarah Mitchell had 0 soot in her airways. Her carbon monoxide levels were normal. Do you know what that means? It means she wasn't breathing when the fire started. Sarah Mitchell was already dead before the first match was struck. And just like that, a tragic accident became a homicide investigation. Police brought Jason in. They didn't tell him what the autopsy found. They let him talk. And talk he did. He played the grieving widower perfectly. He cried about how much he loved her, how he lost his job and she was his rock. He painted a picture of a supportive wife and a struggling but loving husband. Interrogator: Jason, how did the fire start? Jason: I don't know. Maybe the heater. The wiring was old. We talked about fixing it. Interrogator: you said you tried to open the bedroom door. Jason: I pounded on it. I burned my hands trying to turn the knob. The detectives exchanged glances. They knew he was lying, but they needed to prove it. They needed to know how he did it. While Jason was spinning his web of lies in the interview room, the fire marshal was at the house, uncovering a scene of calculated cruelty. They found the poor patterns, V-shaped burn marks on the floor of the bedroom and the hallway. The lab results came back positive for gasoline. And not just anywhere. The gasoline had been poured around the bed. A ring of fire designed to consume the evidence. But here is the detail that turned the stomach of every detective in that precinct. When they sifted through the debris of the bedroom door, they found the metal strike plate of the lock. The scratch marks on it indicated the door hadn't been locked from the inside. It had been wedged shut from the outside. Jason Mitchell hadn't tried to open that door. He had sealed it. But wait, if Sarah was already dead, why lock the door? Because Jason didn't know she was dead. Or maybe he wasn't sure. The theory shifted. A second look at the skull revealed a hairline fracture. The police pieced it together, the argument at 7:30 p.m. Jason, fueled by whiskey and rage, struck Sarah. Maybe he pushed her. Maybe he hit her with something. She fell. She didn't get up. And this is where the employment arson profile comes in. Jason felt emasculated. He felt small. In that moment of violence, he regained control. But then panic set in. He didn't call 911. He didn't try CPR. He sat with her body for 6 hours. Thinking, planning, he decided that if he couldn't have his career, and he couldn't have his wife, he would have the sympathy of the world. He would be the tragic widower who lost everything in a fire. He would restart his life with the insurance money. Sarah's life insurance policy was worth $500,000. Jason thought he was smart. He burned the house. He burned the body. He thought fire cleaned everything. But he forgot about the cloud. At 1:45 a.m., 30 minutes before he called 911, Jason's phone activity showed a Google search. He didn't search how to do CPR. He didn't search concussion symptoms. He searched, will fire destroy DNA evidence? And then, how to explain gasoline smell to police? And finally, how long does it take for a body to burn to ash? That search history was the final nail in his coffin. It proved premeditation. It proved that while Sarah lay dying or dead in the next room, Jason was sitting on the couch, sipping a beer and Googling how to get away with it. The trial was swift. The defense tried to argue temporary insanity, citing his job loss and severe depression. They tried to paint Sarah as the aggressor, claiming she taunted him about his unemployment. But the jury looked at the autopsy. They looked at the search history. And they looked at the man who cared more about his bruised ego than the woman who supported him through it all. It took the jury less than 4 hours. Guilty, first-degree murder, arson, desecration of a corpse. Jason Mitchell was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. During the sentencing, he didn't apologize to Sarah's family. He didn't cry for his wife. He looked at the judge and said, "I was under a lot of pressure. No one understands what it's like to lose your status. I did what I had to do to survive, or to win." Because in Jason's mind, Sarah leaving him was a loss he couldn't accept. If he couldn't win at marriage, he would destroy the game board. Sarah Mitchell died because she dared to succeed when her husband failed. She died because for Jason, marriage wasn't a partnership, it was a hierarchy. And when that hierarchy flipped, he burned the whole structure down rather than adjust to the new reality. It's a terrifying reminder that sometimes, the most dangerous thing you can do is outshine a partner who needs you to be small. This case haunts me because of the time gap. Those 6 hours between the argument and the fire. He sat there. He watched the clock. He planned. It wasn't a crime of passion, it was a crime of ego. What do you think? Was this premeditated from the moment he lost his job, or did he snap that night and try to cover it up? And do you believe the job loss defense holds any weight in understanding his psychology? Or is it just an excuse for a controlling narcissist? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. If you found this story compelling, please hit that like button. It helps us tell more stories for the victims who can no longer speak for themselves. And if you're new here, subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a case. Until next time, stay safe, watch who you trust, and remember, not all fires are accidents.